Bruce, I'd like to ask one question, a general question, and how easy is it to remove a downtown urban growth center and mobility hub designation once it's been established and decisions have been made by the OMB based on those designations?
So I was talking earlier about how under the new system, under the old system and the new system, planning decisions have to be consistent with provincial policy and they have to conform to provincial plans. Urban growth centers are identified through the provincial places to grow plan. Okay. So that's the province writing a plan for all of the Greater Toronto Hamilton area, and in that plan identifying areas that can accommodate additional growth in their minds in order that we put the growth there rather than, this is all an anti-sprawl thing, remember. We're always trying to contain the boundaries of our municipalities so we don't sprawl it under the escarpment or the agricultural land or what have you. If you don't grow out there, you've got to grow in here. So the province has said in order to achieve that, in order to provide protection for our greenbelt, we're going to put more development, more growth within the urban areas, and we're going to put them in specific urban growth centers. Its provincial plan identifies those growth centers, and remember I said earlier, our plans at the local level must conform to the provincial plans. So where the province,
so if they say it's 5,
if they say this is an urban growth center and it must accommodate 200 persons or jobs per hectare, that is a policy that the municipality must conform to. Its decisions and its plans must conform to that. So the change to that is a change that takes place when the provincial growth plan is changed, and it was recently changed. It was recently reviewed.
Updated.
Mobility hubs are a little different. They're related because they happen to. There's a geographic coincidence between urban growth centers and mobility hubs, but mobility hubs emanate from the regional transportation plan of Metrolinx. That plan identified areas that were. In the growth plan, they're called major transit station areas. In Metrolinx, they were called mobility hubs. And the idea was that they were not just the station, but the lands around them. One of the basic principles of planning is that you have to properly integrate transportation and transit with land use. And that principle develops into where you put your density is around the spot where the transit is located. And where you have intersections of significant transit, let's say you have the GO train with light rail, or with a bus system, or with a major highway installation like an interchange. That can be a mobility hub, because that's where a lot of people are coming together, and that's the place where you want to put more development. So growth centers are part of the
and should be able to accommodate that.
Should be able to
growth.
Accommodate it. That's right. And so mobility hubs are identified in the regional transportation plan, as it's called, but local municipalities can identify their own mobility hubs. So we can say that the urban growth center in a municipality is also its mobility hub because that's where our bus station is, and that's where our LRT is, and that's where our subways intersect. In Toronto, the intersection of the new LRT at Eglinton and the Yonge Street subway is a significant growth center identified through the province. Mobility hubs are areas where major transit is coming together and meeting, and the land uses around it are being developed corresponding to that transit investment.
If a town said we're complying with the provincial guidelines or legislation that says there are 4 mobility hubs, we think there should be 6 mobility hubs.
We, the municipality?
Yes. They can add on to the, but they can't go any less than the provincial dictate.
Well, that's a trickier question. So a municipality can identify mobility hubs, and in doing so, it must be consistent with the provincial plans. That's the answer to the question. Okay. I can't get more specific than that. You can have more mobility hubs than the province has identified. You could say that, well, you didn't see this one, but we think it's going to be a mobility hub, and we'd like to develop it. And the province says, yeah, that makes sense. And if nobody objects to it and appeals that designation, because it is, in that case, a designation or an overlay within an official plan, if nobody appeals that, then that can become a mobility hub.
Okay.